USL Live podcast and the Season 53 Week 5 preview. I'm your host, Romulocks, and this show is a weekly podcast where we look at the results from the previous week, discuss the upcoming matches, and take your questions for the panel submitted to our mailbag. Joining me to discuss all that and more, I'm honored to welcome into the broadcast booth my co-hosts for tonight. Returning to center stage, we have the head analyst himself back from vacation, Mecca.
Howdy.
We have Yosh.
Ni hao.
We have Herthbul.
Evening, gentlemen.
And we have Eric.
Fuck Fasto.
For more information on the Unified Skirmish League, including a schedule, rosters, or how you can be a part of the Unified Skirmish League, we ask that you please visit uslzone.com. As we always do, let's start by looking back at our Week 4 games, which took place on Bombs map. First up, we had Dark Slayers defeating Weaponized Autism 51-29. Your MVP was dead. Mecca, take it away.
Yeah, this was a really close game at first. Well, not really close, but it was a close game at first. And I actually thought WA had a chance to win it. But I honestly think, and I'm one of the people who thinks Ninja is one of the best, if not the best mechanical players in the league. Him playing Ranger, I think, destroyed them. I'm not necessarily a proponent of him playing AT on that map. But if he Marines or basically anything but Ranger, I think WA has a chance, and they maybe even pull it off. Other than that, DS played really well in the second half. You could see kind of the experience and chemistry come through, and DS was always kind of destined to win that, so I think that is why, but I would have liked to see Ninja play a different class, and shout out to Pandy for having a pretty good performance. Probably one of his best in-season performances in past 5 seasons, but it wasn't enough.
100%.
Also, shout out Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck in the starting lineup getting 9 kills. That's huge. He played really well.
Yeah, Chuck did really well in this game. Like Mecca said, Pandy played amazing. Dark Slayers to me came out very flat for about the first 15 minutes, right? I think we said it in the broadcast as well. They looked a little hesitant on what they were doing. Maybe it was the map. Maybe it was, the pressure that Pandy was providing. But after, the first 15 so minutes, then it really came online. Chuck out there being an AT, being annoying. Sabo finally got the LMG working, and that was pretty much all it wrote.
I'll say this really was a game of just two halves. It was Weaponized Autism in the first half. They kind of got that lead, really locked themselves down into kind of the very defensive playstyle and forced Dark Slayers to come to them, which is not Dark Slayers' strong suit. But eventually, like right around the 15-minute mark, Dark Slayers kind of flipped that switch, said, okay, we're way better than the way we're playing, and amped it up and really started dominating the game at that point. Pandy was doing great all game. He was the one standout, at least on the positive side from WA, but as you guys have already alluded to it, Ninja's Ranger was just not it. And anything other than Ranger, and I agree, Weaponized Autism really had a chance to take home that game.
Yeah, the thing is, too, when Weaponized Autism had the lead, it was never by more than a battle. I actually think it was only ever as high as like 5 or 6 kills, right? So DS was always within just one clean fight of taking that victory or taking that lead. And once they did, it just escalated pretty quick. And everybody's already said it. If Sammy was a Marine or even AT, I think he could have possibly carried that with how well Pandy was playing.
Yeah, I hate to beat it up, but that's exactly the point everybody's made. Ninja needs to be on a fighting class. I'll move past that. Agree with what Mecca said. Pandy the God, he played so well in this game. We were calling it out on the broadcast. He was easily the biggest good point for the team in the game, unquestionably. And then there were a few other things I would note about the team, but overall, it was kind of a letdown, I thought, for Weaponized Autism generally. But at least it showed us that they have a team and they're working on it. And Ninja going to a fighting class, I think you'll see some difference there in later games. DS went down early. That's, as we said, that's not a position they've been in a lot of games. Typically, they're the ones that take the lead early, and then they have to, and then it's about whether or not they can hold it. But they do have some consistency. I think where they have a little bit lack of skill compared to Season 27 and Birds, they have a little more consistency. I would note Chuck and Sabotage. I think Sabotage is starting to fit into that roster really a lot better. And then Typhoon went 7-2 in this game, and I think that was kind of quiet because he's lower on the chart. But 7-2 was solid for him, and we've been talking in weeks past about kind of where is the Typhoon we know, and he showed up, I think. On the other side, I just want to point out, I think Big Bird 1-6. I know you're leading the squad, man, but you got to lead the squad. You know, you got to demonstrate how to fight, and I just don't think this week was it for him in terms of a positioning, a few other things. But at the same time, Stavadine is on the top 10 right now, having a really great season despite any losses. I think he's proving the point that he is an excellent medic in this league, even on the back foot. Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
I just want to say that the kill spread as well from Dark Slayers is super even, right?
Yeah.
Sabo and Chuck both at 9. Everybody else that's a fighting class is at 8, and Typhoon's the lowest at 7. Like, everybody on that team did their job.
Yeah.
Whereas Pandy it was kind of Pandy and then Torch, right? So big difference.
Yeah. And I did think it was a good game, and to Mecca's point, it was a better game at the beginning than it was at the end, that's for sure. Let's move on to the next game. Birds defeated Out for Blood 37-17. Your MVP, surprisingly, was Colossal. Mecca?
Yeah, the Colossal MVP was pretty funny. TG did call it in the preview. Yeah, this was an interesting game. I thought Out for Blood had a chance in the first half. The issue is top Titan on Bombs map is horrendous. I don't know why we ever picked this map. It's the same story every time that we play it. It just, you can't do anything from Titan. You try to go left and Kali beats them to the ridge. You try to go right, and as you saw Birds do in a really smart game plan, they had 2 guys far right watching the right. So if they do come down right, you can all shift, and it's a quick switch because it's a pretty shallow map widthwise. So you can kind of just cover so much ground from Kali on this, and you only really need one person, because if you're far right or far left, you can get out pretty easily from the Kali side. So they just did what Birds do best. They got a lot of vision, held them in check, and then once Out for Blood got desperate when they were down a few kills, they took advantage of it. I think Out for Blood did fuck up once. Eric had a really nice flank as AT on the bottom right side, but the timing just wasn't right with the middle team. I don't know if it was a communication issue or what, but that was, I think, like 5 minutes left in the go, kind of their last chance. I think they're only down like 10 or something at that point. If that play works, we have a game. It didn't work, unfortunately, because of timing with the main group on the road. Other than that, good game. I think OFB kind of did show out. I know they lost by 20, but a lot of that was at the end. But if OFB has their starters again against Birds, which is most likely going to be the playoff matchup, from what I can see, they have a chance. You know, if Shasta and Danny's there, I think this game proves they have a chance, even though they lost by 20.
Yeah, overall, it was a very slow-paced match. Like Mecca was saying, on the left side, they beat you to literally everything. So we camped it out. It was a boring match to play in, probably even worse to watch, to be honest. But that's how it's going to go versus top squads in a lot of cases in time, right? You saw also, whenever they finally found us, there had been positions where we'd see them, they'd see us, and then they'd have to back out because they had no clue where we were hiding at. You know, especially in that northern right area. You know, that happened a couple times as well. And then we would just loop around and try and take position in the south. We had one chance to really win the game, and, you know, we just didn't convert on it. So.
Yeah, it was a very measured game on both sides of the match. Like you guys already mentioned, it was kind of everyone get a little, you know, test each other, maybe get a kill or two, back up, because you already know you're down, regroup with the respawners, and then just kind of rinse and repeat. And both sides would spread out across the whole map just to get vision, try to do the count. So again, it was smart gameplay. It was very boring to watch, I agree. But the score doesn't, I know the score is the 20 spread, but as Mecca alluded to, is basically all in the last 5 minutes. I mean, it was good to see. I mean, just that kind of leadership, especially when you had Cerrito in too for the good, first half of that game. So, I mean, it's kind of the rough game to come in, but it's a good chance for him to see, hey, this is what top USL looks like. And it'll be interesting to see, especially when, you know, Shasta and Danny show up, hopefully for the real matches, what OFB looks like then.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Apollo. There was one specific play I remember that if Danny or Shas is in over Cerrito when Rio initially got that top angle on the road, Apollo had a nice left angle on Rio and started shooting at him. If Cerrito just pushes up with him, Rio drops. And that, I want to say, that second fight, possibly changes differently. But Apollo had a really pretty decent game, aside from getting stuck on the physic with those tank traps. The game was a lot slower than I thought we were going to play. Shout out to SV and ISO for the game plan. But we kept it close, and like Mecca said, I even tried it in a scrim. I tried dashing down to get down to the bottom of the ridge, and I still got beat by another team in scrim. So getting anywhere on that left hand side is impossible. But good game.
Yeah, I thought the OFB looked okay at first, but then you guys let birds settle in. I thought the camping choice, we're gonna have questions about it later, but the camping choice is very interesting. Like you got an advantage and then you were scared to push any of it. I don't understand, and I'm interested to hear the explanations of the thought process there. But I kind of wish you guys had, once you won a first battle or did pretty well at the beginning, if you do something they don't expect. But when you retreated, that's exactly what Birds, I think, wanted to do, and then they're allowed to cast the net. Rio absolutely laid it out. 11-1, Chompy 9-0, just incredible performances from them. And I think that it was cool to see that Birds were positive across the board. It didn't, except for all the fighting classes, I should say. But from ESO, the only real production you guys got was from ESO, and then there was a steep drop off, and I think it was a lot of those close battles. You just lost 1-on-1s overall, but Rio did play like an absolute god. So I don't know what you do in that, but I do think, to Eric's point earlier, I think the better opportunity was in the first half of the game, and there were a couple times at the beginning when you had guys like Rio on the ropes, and I just don't think those positions were really taken advantage of. And when you don't take advantage of them against Birds, it's going to haunt you in the end for sure, because they are a comeback team every time. So, but that's my view of it. Let's move on to season 27. Defeated Law and Mortar 111-38. Your MVP was Kova, which is Havoc backwards.
Glad you're finally realizing that.
I just wanted to announce it for everybody else. Yeah.
Not much to say about this game. Except Splitta going 9-3. I know he got some slack saying he's a 5-star Marine and then goes 9-3. But in a game like this, I don't really give a shit about scores. It's basically whoever gets the last hit. So I'm not really concerned about Splitta at all. I'd say for Law and Mortar, Axidus and Bowen both played pretty well. Bowen, I think, killed me 4 out of my 5 deaths with a Ripper Stream. It's super annoying in a game that you want to. I wouldn't call this a stat pad like V2, but a game that is clearly a favorite. So you're pushing the whole time, and you're pushing into an LMG Ripper in demo. It's annoying as fuck. So kudos for them for keeping it, lower than it probably should have been. So I think if they go all Marines, we probably push 140, 150. But with all the support classes slowing us down, it's only 111, and kudos to them again for getting 38 kills. That's kind of a lot. In these kind of games, you don't usually see 38 kills. It's more so 20, 25. So I think they got a little bit more kills than everyone expected. Also, shout out to everybody who had Sav on Fantasy who trolled you and went Nader.
Yosh?
Still got more points than Splitta.
Yosh, you there, buddy?
I got nothing for this one.
Okay.
I mean, Mecca basically covered it. I know he doesn't want to call it a stat pad game, but yeah, it was a stat pad game, and definitely, I just want to apologize for everybody that had Split on their fantasy team.
Fuck you, Bert.
I definitely want to compliment Law and Mortar. I mean, I liked a lot of what I saw. Lofi came out there in his first game, did fairly well. I mean, he had some hiccups at first, was definitely trying to stay behind walls at moments when his teammates need heals. But over time, he warmed up. I think they were encouraging him in chat probably. And I liked the way he was settling in towards the end of the game. Axidus played excellent, I thought, for for what was going on his team. I think he was easily the brightest spot on his team at 9-16. Bowen did pretty well at Ripper. He's the second on the leaderboard for their team. I've been saying in a lot of ways, Bowen is a veteran on the squad, and he needs to show up. And I think he did for the most part. I do think there was some drop off towards the end. I wanted to see more from Spark in particular. I wonder if he should swap off a demo, but it seems like it's just his thing. But I don't think it was very effective in this game in particular. But all kudos to season 27. That was their the rebound, so to speak, after Birds. And I think they got it out of their system. Now they can move on to the rest of the season, palate cleansed, and it was a demonstrative performance from season 27. I'll just leave it that way. Good week 4 games. We're moving on now to week 5 games. We'll be returning to Morgan Base for round 2 of that map. And the 9:30 p.m. game that is scheduled now is Law and Mortar versus Weaponized Autism. Mecca, you haven't gotten a lot of time on Morgan Base, right? What do you think is going to happen here?
Well, I played a lot of it in the preseason, but I haven't played too many SPs since. I think that Weaponized Autism has improved every week, even though they lost last week. I think every week they get a little bit better. You get Cage more in the flow of things, Torch more in the flow of things. Those guys can be pretty good support Marines. Ninja plays AT on this map. That's a plus. So then all of a sudden you have Ninja, Pandy, Torch, Cage. That's a pretty stout 4, especially against Law and Mortar. So I expect Weaponized Autism to win. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. Law and Mortar will have some interesting plays on this. This is a more forgiving map for lesser talented squads, I think, as well, because there's a lot of places to hide, a lot of places to move, harder to chase, all that. So I do take Weaponized Autism, especially because they have home. So they can probably pick right side, or I don't know what the thinking is now, right or left. But either way, Weaponized Autism takes this. But look for Exodus and to get a few kills. And I would say Bowen should stay Ripper. He played really well on Ripper on this map. I know it's not conventionally a good Ripper map, but if you play kind of the bottom road side as Ripper, you can do a lot of damage on this map. So I think it'll be closer than we think, but I still think Weaponized Autism wins by 45.
I did note that Bowen absolutely destroyed you on Ripper this weekend. That's on the clip.
I got every bullet he shot. Every bullet he shot was into me.
Yeah, I think the same thing as Mecca. Weaponized Autism should win this by about 40. If Sam does not show, this game gets a lot more interesting, though. They really depend on Sammy to kind of be the big player for them. I know we talk a lot about Pandy, but Sam is the one trying to make that stuff happen for him. If he does not show to this match, it could get really interesting, though. If he does show, I think they win by about 40.
No, I agree. And like you said, though, if one of their star players does not show up, it gets way more interesting, especially on this map. So, but now didn't Law and Mortar, they missed this the first week, right? Because they had a bye.
Yeah.
So they're coming into this one fresh, whereas WA's at least got some more experience on this. So it'll be curious to see how Axis takes his squad and adapts to this map since it's their first time seeing it. I think WA is still going to beat them at least 20-30. But if Law and Mortar is going to get a shock upset against anybody, it's going to be this game. I don't think they're going to pull it off, but the percentage at least is more than 0%.
I'd like to encourage you, by the way, if you're listening live right now, guys, you should go check out the schedule and put up your vote on the website about which team you think you're going to win these things. I'd like to see more participation in that if I can. I'm sorry to interrupt here. Go ahead, man.
That's all right, man. You skipped me the entire time last game, too. So it's
Jesus,
cool, it's cool.
I'm so sorry.
But yeah, no, Weaponized Autism is going to win by 40. If Sammy plays AT, nobody's going to be able to contain him. It's going to be up to Exodus as LMG to try and contain Ninja, and that just takes away from the rest of the team. I would like to see some interesting ambushes from season 27 to have some good spots where the AT can't really get the vision easily, so to say. But yeah, Axie will have a good game for Law and Mortar, and then Ninja and Pandy will probably top the charts.
I think it's still going to be a blowout if Ninja's there or not, to be quite honest. I'm just going to take that hot take there, right? I think WA wins this outright, no matter pretty much whatever lineup they want to post. I just think they're just better players overall right now. But particularly when they added Cage, I mean, they really do have a really good that Pandy, Ninja, Cage, and I would even say if Draco shows up, I think Draco as a 4th or 5th Marine is fantastic. So I mean, I put him right up there with like a Brill, somebody like that, or a Uni. And I think you got a pretty damn good looking team now in WA. I'm shocked that they're as good as they were, considering how rocky it was, just last week. But I think they win against Law and Mortar. If they could put something together, I'd love to see it for Law and Mortar because I love those guys and I definitely want it for them. I'll be interested to see if Victim gets some playtime over there because the Victim edition is big. In terms of just shoring up medic and just having a quality medic on the field all the time. If Victim could play in these games, I think that'd be big. Abyss did not show up last week. I think I wasn't sure if he was going to play or not. I think there were some issues. I'm not sure, but I definitely think he needs to be playing in this game, and he needs to have a big game. That's for sure. But if Pandy's playing like he is last week, and Ninja's playing like the guy we know and we all agree is like a top 3 Marine in this game, it's not going to even be close. So, let's go to the 10-15 game. That is V2 versus Dark Slayers.
I don't have much to say about this one. I think Dark Slayers wins pretty handedly. Maybe they'll spread out some playtime. Maybe you'll see a head sighting or maybe Ender shows up. I know he loves stat pads. X5 might play. I don't know. Or maybe they just keep the same lineup in, but I think this is going to be a pretty sizable blowout. So I don't really have much to say about this game.
Welcome to the Sabotage Show. I think he's going to pick up 25 kills in this match, and it's not going to be close.
Nah, if they're going to do what they did versus us on Birds, they're going to camp, the north side of the map, and they're just going to get obliterated. I think Tyrael's going to go off on this game.
Oof. Good for fantasy.
Uncle T.
Well, it would be good for fantasy if they would actually play the people you pick up. Ender did not get in, and it ruined me. It absolutely ruined me. So yeah, I think again it's the same kind of repeat of what I said last time. I think no matter what iteration of Dark Slayers walks on that field, V2 loses this game. And we'll kind of have a question about that kind of later. But good luck to the V2 guys. You've it's only up from here. Let's see here. The 11 o'clock game, season 27 versus Out for Blood. Probably match of the week. If not, the Law and Mortar game, it sounds pretty good, but I think this is your match of the week, if everyone agrees.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clearly the match of the week. I will say Out for Blood does look good on this map. I know in the preseason when I was SPing with them a lot, they kind of had their the game plan down. I know we SP'd a few times last night, and they kept it pretty close as well. ESO and Mountain and Eric, some Yosh, some combination of leader. ESO does lead pretty well on this map, so I think he should step up and lead. He knows what to do. You always keep a guy south. Every time you got to get that south angle. South is king on this map under that river. Whoever wins that under river battle wins the game, in my opinion. With all that being said, I think season 27 still wins. Iron's here on Discord, so I'm going to assume Iron is going to show Sunday. So that's going to be a big boon for us. And then everybody else should show as well. So I'm going to take season 27. I think it's going to be pretty close throughout, but it's going to be that classic, kind of like what OFB and Birds was. Going to be close throughout. Season 27 is going to be up a little bit. OFB is going to have to push, and you can take some really nice defensive positions on this map. So you can kind of shield off Eric from coming from mid. Just have one guy watch it, have a couple guys under the river. So it's really hard to push down on this map when they know where you're coming from. So I'm going to take season 27 by 2 battles on this game.
So I will say this is a stat pad for season 27. Sav, Iron, you guys don't need to show up. You guys can, phone it in. Play some of the other guys, spread out some playing time. You're playing me. It's not that hard. There you go.
I agree. It's going to be a 2 battle game for sure for season 27. But since both squads have, experience on this map, it's curious to see if they're going to come into this with the same strategies or whether they're going to switch it up. I mean, Mecca's going to actually play this one, and it's not going to be a stat pad game like it was on this previous Sunday. He's actually going to have to try this time. So curious to see what season 27 looks like this time around with him in the roster. Also kind of curious to see who ends up benching for them too. But that might be a different discussion. Also,
So that question.
Maybe. And then on this map, Assault Troop, we'll see ATs again. So we'll see the Sa versus Eric battle again. Now, last time Eric had this, he was on WA and it didn't end so well, but he's got a better roster this time. So we'll see how it looks overall.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun staring in the Sov's eyes for 28 minutes of the match. With Mecca and Kaga slowly creeping around trying to ambush me. No, it's gonna be a fun game. I expect it to be kind of slow paced in the first 15 minutes, kind of like exactly like everybody said, like the Birds match. We'll probably be down and make a few pushes that kind of escalate that lead a little bit more, but I foresee, I think we have the fighters. I think obviously Iron's the best med in the game. I think they have an advantage over the med department. So yeah, it'll be good. I give them the 15 kill spread.
I think everybody said it. I'm excited for this game. I think this is a proving grounds kind of game for both teams. I think both teams need to show up playoff quality rosters. And I do hope it's that close. Although I'm predicting that season 27 wins it by a little bit bigger of a margin. I'm thinking 20 kills or so. And I just don't think that OFB ultimately is going to be able to rise to the occasion. Mostly because I think the bottom of the roster is just not going to be able to match the bottom of season 27's roster. They just are so strong, and they're going to come in with a really strong 8. But I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong because this is an OFB.
How can our bottom match 5-star split it, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I am excited to see this game. There's a lot of, as Eric is alluding to, a lot of bad blood or interesting dynamics between these two squads and the participants on both teams. Splitta, I hope you get your chance to put a law right down to Eric's fucking throat. Okay. I really do. I hope it's a good time for everybody. I will be casting this one. Looking forward to it, and I'll have this one posted up first. All right. Birds are going to have a bye in week 5. And then let's go to another topic. I'm calling this one, Let's Get It All on the Record. This is regarding the USL live recordings. To introduce the issue, I've been doing game recordings of Infantry and specifically USL Live since 2015. My first broadcast was Tank versus Warhawks in Season 2 of Free Infantry's USL. Eric likes to poke fun at me about it, but I spend a lot of time on writing, recording, and editing the videos for this league with the goal of creating a visual record of our league games. And for that reason, I'm rather protective of the final product of all my work, because it represents quite literally hundreds of hours of my life, my effort, and my time. And until last week, I have never had a single issue or conflict emerge regarding these recordings at any point. But in week 3 of season 53, about 30 minutes after the final match concluded, Metal uploaded 2 videos to YouTube, which were made using his perspective of the game, but he had recorded my voice in the USL Live Discord channel on top of the gameplay that he was watching. I reacted angrily to that and issued DMCA strikes against both videos. I was mostly upset that Metal never asked me if he could use my voice in his videos, and that he posted his videos while I was in the process of editing mine, thus siphoning off viewers who otherwise would have tuned into the Free Infantry YouTube channel to get access to that same content. To his credit, Metal quickly apologized and indicated that wasn't his intention at all, and he just wanted people to be able to see the games quickly, which I very much understand. Then, following the conclusion of the games in week 4, Eva posted a 2-hour video which included all 3 games played in USL that week, including full commentary from Mecca, DP, and Bowen in Game 2, and Yosh and myself in Game 3. Claiming she was unaware of the Metal videos from week 3, she indicated that she would take her videos down until we published on Free Infantry. To Metal, I think I owe an apology. Victim messaged me saying that I was too hard on Metal, and that is most certainly an honest mistake that he didn't realize the significance of. I blew that excuse off at the time because I was honestly kind of pissed about it, but I'm coming to realize that in hindsight, I was probably in the wrong. Metal is a good dude. He probably didn't deserve that level of hostility he got from me right out of the gate, although I do think he should have asked. But if you've been watching the Discord channel today, you might be aware of my position on Eva. Eva decided to private message me and engage in insults with zero justification for that behavior. So let me say it clearly for everybody. Fuck that crazy bitch. And this is my warning for the entire infantry community. If you want to record the USL games and post them to YouTube, go for it. I love more infantry content on YouTube. If you want to create a show like After Dark or some other infantry-related show or podcast, please do it. I'll not only publicly support your efforts, I'll probably lend you a hand if you need settings help or access to the YouTube channel. But after today, if you decide to post the USL games with my voice or a USL Live broadcaster on your own private channel without permission, I will DMCA strike it every single time. I will issue cease and desist notices in the email associated with the account, and I will do literally everything within my power to ruin your channel. I swear this by the old gods and the new. I will make it my business to fuck with you and everything you care about. Before I close out this topic, I wanted to open it up to the panel to comment if they want to chide me if they wish, like Victim did, because maybe I'm being closed-minded about some of this. But I don't do all this work so that other people can steal it and reap the benefits off of it. Any comments at all? Any questions? Anything?
First and foremost, is this Rom or is this Jeff?
I was inspired by Jeff. Jeff harnesses he's my spirit animal in this. I have been avoiding saying anything to Eva, even though I think her behavior is abhorrent 24/7. I don't say a word to her. And then she comes out of nowhere. You could see in the messages I posted, she initiated conversation with me. I politely handle it, and then she starts throwing shit in my face. Fuck that.
No, you can't communicate with somebody like that. They just want attention. But does this mean you're going to use one of my 7 recordings I made for your for copyright?
I do enjoy them. I don't know if they make it into a recording, but I enjoy all of them.
Shut down, Eric. So,
Damn it.
So I had a mailbag question.
They
I'm just
strike
going
me
to
as
roll it in
a little weird with the kid kind of sound. I'm trying to get away from the pedo thing. Okay, paintball is gone.
The anime girl is for Kaga and Staley, dude.
Whoa. So I have a mailbag question on this. I'm just going to roll it into this.
Mhm.
So the question reads: Eva's claiming she could boost USL viewers count on the videos. What's the panel and Rom consider? Well, oh my God, this question's all fucked up. Let me start over. Eva is claiming she can boost USL videos viewer counts on her YouTube channel. Will the panel and Rom consider letting Eva take part in the broadcast or the production at some point? Well,
No is my answer very, very quickly. Eva is dead to me in the most eternal of senses. I think she is truly mentally ill. I think she truly needs to get help. And the way she talks to people, the way she invokes, okay, I don't consider myself a bastion of moral behavior. But if you're talking about someone's divorce and their children leaving, you're a fucking scumbag in my book. And I that's the most disgusting thing to say to somebody as a low insult. And you could just fuck right off with that. I don't have any room for her in any part of any world that I'm in.
understandable. It's interesting because I've had interactions with Eva and they've all been positive. Right? It's wild to me to hear that y'all guys have such negative reactions. That's wild to me.
Do you
But-
just ignore spec chat all day?
I don't read chat, bro. You know this. I haven't read
Maybe-
chat ever.
Guess she's in the Native American guys. Okay.
Okay.
Watch out.
Mecca,
Better watch
you-
out. Primordial might stalk you like he does Sammy.
Not a word from Mecca back there. You good over there?
I'm good. I'm good.
Okay.
I don't want the FBI calls on me again.
Open up.
All right. Let's see here. I got questions now pouring in. But I'll close it out with this. Finally, fuck Eva, you toothless hag. I wouldn't fuck you with Eric's dick. Let's move on.
Well,
Also's girl.
If
Damn.
if V2 and LAM combined rosters into one squad, what would your ideal starting lineup be currently? And using your suggested hypothetical roster, what would their chances be, do you think, against Weaponized Autism, Darkslayers, and Out for Blood, assuming that Law and V2 got their choice of map?
Oh,
Hold
interesting.
on, I gotta look at the rosters now.
Yeah, let me look at the rosters real quick here. What do we got?
But while they're doing that, I'll go ahead and answer. I don't think they have a chance of beating either of those squads, even if they did combine. They just don't have enough experience. They don't have a leader that knows all the maps, right? Even if they got to pick the map that they wanted.
That is probably
Right.
your issue. You don't have it. I mean, Exodus does a pretty damn good job, though, Yosh.
Yeah, but you're starting to run into maps that, he's never seen before. Like, I think Bomb's map is the first time they ever seen that map.
Well, let me
Right.
just ask, is there anybody from V2's roster you think you, because I think I pick a lot of Law and Mortar guys. Is there anybody from V2's roster that you definitely take? I think there's an argument for Ghost.
That makes it easier.
Mike
That
C.
makes it easier.
Mike
I would
C.
say, yeah, Ghost, Cal, and Llama. I think Cal is learning pretty quickly, and minus the shit he got for the game against OFB, I think he's a pretty decent medic given correct leadership. And then yeah, Mike C, as long as he's Marine, he's got a little bit more experience.
You don't think there's an argument anybody for Karatank to go as well?
No, he wouldn't gel with anybody on that team.
Okay.
We did have a mix last night, and I don't think he's better than either med on Law and Mortar, but MTR3 played a pretty decent med last night. Everybody sees him nader, and he kind of trolls and he feeds his nader. But around decent players, there's a case to be made for MTR3 med getting added. Even with that said, though, I don't think they beat anybody. But I would add Llama and Cal as well.
Okay. So the rest of just calling out Law and Mortar, Abyss, Exodus, Victim for sure at this point, and maybe Jaguar, Flo. Yeah, Flo. Flo hadn't played a game yet.
Not Jaguar. Flo.
What about
Yeah,
Fizz?
Fizz,
I think
RRU.
Fizz.
Yeah, RRU has
for
stepped it
sure.
up this season for sure. Okay. Well, I think that's a good answer to that question. But does anybody think that they have a chance against any of those teams on a map of their choice?
No.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I don't think so right now either. I think that's a depressing reality of the situation. Yosh, let's go to you for some questions that I think revolve around our good friend Bax. We haven't visited Bax in a while. What's going on with Bax?
All right. So I got a couple questions regarding him. When will we get the official announcement about the Bax ban and details of what we should do and should not do as a community to avoid the same fate?
Does anybody have a summary of what Bax did? Because I'm still very mixed about it. I don't know. I don't understand. No, nobody's
I don't know when the
reported it.
official announcement's coming out. From what I've heard and seen, it was some spec info allegations that, from what I hear, Fossil's deemed pretty serious.
Credible.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
My question is this though? Was it during an SB? Was it during a match?
Do we care if somebody cheats in an SB?
No, that's the question. It wasn't an SB. It was
I don't
definitely in an SB. Whether you care or not about spec info in an SB, I think on the surface level, no. But if you're going to cheat in an SB, is that like a pipeline to cheat in a match?
Well, you know,
I think is the concern.
I hearken back to the olden times, and in olden times, in SL days, the responsibility for dealing with discipline issues in private arenas or in squad battles was on the squads themselves in that room. Like if you didn't like what the other squad was doing, you just left, right? We don't have maybe the luxury of that anymore, but my understanding before was that whatever you did in a squad battle never bled over into league because obviously you could never get away with what you do in a squad battle in league.
Yep.
Yeah, but there's already precedent set that you can be punished for shit you do in SBs. We have the spec all from a few seasons ago from Bax, a few other things, harassment
I think
and stuff. So
I think the main issue is it's Bax, right? He has a lengthy history of toting that line, right? Of trolling / disruptive behavior. I think I get that this shouldn't be the thing he gets season banned for per se, but because he's consistently, going after staff, trolling and doing things that harm the game more so than, promote good behavior, it's just like the final straw that broke the camel's back. You know what I mean?
Man.
So let me
yeah.
go ahead and talk about that for a minute because that actually bothers me a little bit. The fact of the matter is he didn't really do anything in my opinion to get himself perm silence, perm ban, whatever he ended up getting. And the reason for that is because technically he didn't break any rules. If you don't break any rules, then you shouldn't get that kind of punishment. Now, granted, you know, he's towed the line, like you said, right? If you were going to ban him for previous offenses, then fine, so be that. But in this case, and in other cases too, he has done nothing wrong, in my opinion, and he should not be getting punishment.
Well,
for
this is
that.
a stack on a few things though, because one, the 2-day ban was because he impersonated a moderator and entered the moderator chat, and then said it
Oh,
wasn't him, and
shit.
they chosen by IP. Found out that his entire history, it's like the NFL does it too. You remember Vontez Burfict or Ndamukong Suh, even if they had a play that was kind of on the line, after so many issues, you don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think if it was in a vacuum, I probably wouldn't ban him. But as Bowen just said, Ghost Bomber got banned for a game last season or 2 seasons ago for the spec info thing. So there's precedence for that from a non-backs case already too.
Yeah.
So you have to be consistent there. So you stack that on top of the history of shithousery, and
He's been on a short leash for a long time, and I like backs. I have no problem saying that, and I've had private messages with him, and I've told him, dude, you are on a short leash. You cannot poke the bear like this, and he keeps doing it. And I do like the guy, and I don't want to see him banned. And I'll probably advocate for him to have that ended at at some point, like the end of the season would make sense to me. But
What is that? It's just the season ban. It's not like a perm ban from USL, but it is the full season.
I like there being an end to it. Because
Mecca, you brought up a good point. I completely forgot about the Ghost Bomber spec info and SPs.
So did I till Bowen said it.
Yeah.
So if there's precedence and a history of abuse and all the other shit, and it's backs always towing the line or pushing the envelope, it's like at some point you give somebody enough rope to hang themselves with, and I think that's what this case is.
Well, to hang backs one more time, Yosh, did you have a second question on him?
Yeah, so it says prior to backs being silenced for 2,000 or 200 years, our staff members getting specialized treatment and allowed to threaten players' lives while a player criticizing a squad during an SP leads to a 200-year silence. What is fair, and what can we do to avoid the same pitfalls of backs if no announcements are being made to draw a clear line in the rules?
We've had threats in this game since 1998.
I was on vacation when this happened, so I'll recuse myself from this question.
I didn't pay attention. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
But is this the Exodus thing? Is that what this is?
I mean, I have no clarification on who it is. I'm just, there's been a number of instances, to be honest, right? But
Bax has a way of finding that button for certain people, and they just explode. And I get that. I definitely get that. Eva clearly found mine, and I don't know.
I think the silence is overboard, because if it happened in a private arena, private SB, or whatever the case may be, and it was to a moderator, that person could easily just ignore them or spec quiet, right? Unless it was on voice, which then opens a whole nother thing of it's not happening. Yeah,
you can also
just mute them or kick them from your Discord.
Too. You can, if you're a moderator, you can spec quiet one individual without turning the whole thing on as well. So
yeah,
there's always that option.
All right. Well, we've beat that dead backs. Let's see here. Following the week 4 results, what does the panel think about the current league standings and the squad rankings? Just a reminder, it is Birds first, Darkslayer second, Season 27 third, Out for Blood fourth, Weaponized Autism fifth, V2 6th, and Law and Mortar 7th, although 5th, 6th, and 7th is technically tied.
I think you'll see Darkslayers fall to 3rd, Season 27 2nd. Darkslayers hasn't played Birds or Season 27 yet, so I think their standings are artificially inflated.
You think they're due to be brought down to earth a little bit?
Yes. I think they probably go 0-2 against those guys, so.
Okay. Anybody disagree? Any other thoughts?
Nope.
Herth, haven't heard from you in a while. You okay over there?
No, I completely agree with that. Yeah, and Mecca beat me to that point.
Fair. Which player most screams quote, great at stat padding, invisible in competitive games. Question sender requests that each panelist name at least one person, and they argue, I think it's Danny, who he describes as the obliterator of bottom tier squads, but a total no-show, either literally or figuratively, against equal or better squads. Who you got?
You already know my answer.
I would say before anybody answers about Danny, I think if Danny's not on Out for Blood, they don't beat Weaponized Autism. So I automatically contest that assertion
I like it.
because he carried them against Weaponized Autism.
Yosh, where you at? Where you at taking up for your boy? You just gonna let them talk like that about Danny?
I mean, he didn't show up for us last week, man. What have you done for me lately? We needed him.
Well, Mecca, who you think it is? Yosh, who you think it is?
Ooh.
I don't know. This is actually a big question. I don't know.
It's
Let
a
me
good
look.
question.
I got a wild one, and I know it's unnatural to think about. Sabotage. Except for that one
not
championship that he
unnatural.
was the MVP of the one with birds or whatever, which was wild and awesome to see, especially after Eric totally fired him from our team. But at the same time, I prior to that, for like the previous 5 or 6 seasons, Sabo just did not show up in really tight games. He just disappeared completely. And so I think he has a history of doing it and of being better in the past, but in the recent history, I would say he's my nomination.
So my nomination is
Here, by the way.
my nomination. It's not from me, but I'm going to read one that was sent to me because I don't know. Right? This person said Shasta. He is the noob killer from Man U.
Okay.
It's hard
Anybody?
to argue that one.
Herth, you got a name? The requester makes me hold you to a name, so I'm coming to Mecca next.
Oh God, yeah. Can you go to Mecca first, then me?
Mecca. Yeah, give us a
I'm looking to
CTF-er,
see-
Herth.
CTF that's kind of like stat pattern, but just bad in real games.
Yeah.
So besides like most of them, I gotta tell you, maybe. That's a hell of a question. Because the ones that are doing good actually seem to do good even when they're getting farmed, like Axie or Llama. Probably Thiz. I think we all think he's doing good, but
This is a
I don't
serial
think he's
choke
gonna do
artist.
well in
That's
the-
what you're saying.
Yeah, I don't think he'll do good in a real game. I think he's got too much ADD.
Okay. Mecca, you got a name?
This is a tough one. I had a few thoughts in my head, and then I went to check, and they've all done pretty decent this season. So, because I was thinking, oh, maybe it's like Typhoon or Tyrael or something, and then you go look, and they played pretty well. In seasons past, I would probably put one of those two in there.
What about the Mountain? I mean,
Yeah, this is a weird season though, because I think in seasons past, Mountain's been pretty solid across all games.
Yeah.
This season, he's definitely in the conversation. He has not had same with Eric. They have not had good seasons, but
he's just so talented to not show up in big competitive games.
The circumstances of those bad seasons are pretty obvious, and I think you can't really put people like that in there because they have a history of showing up in big games and playoffs. So I don't think it's fair to call them out, but I'll go with Typhoon.
Okay. All right. Well, that's everybody has been held to an answer, random person. Does Jordan genuinely believe that birds are quote unquote camping when they have 7 players and a training dummy, aka Staley, standing in 5 different coordinates around the enemy base? Or is this cope for the lack of ability to beat them? Is the only viable strategy for birds to win the first battle against birds is to win the first battle and then camp your baseline for 27 minutes?
I think, first of all, calling Staley a training dummy is not what I was saying in the commentary. I was just saying that he's not an aggressive Marine who's not going to push in and get kills from the solo angle. So you don't necessarily need to waste your best Marine holding him off. You can have one of your, stable Marines hold him off, is what I was saying. I do think it's a form of camping. I don't think it's as egregious as hiding behind a rock or, the pistol play sitting outside your DS. I think there's levels of camping that's, it's kind of a spectrum. I use that word intentionally, of kind of how you camp and when you camp. But can you really argue it's not camping when they have 3 guys south, 2 guys at weed, 1 guy far right, and they're not moving, just because you're spread out across the map. I don't think camping is even bad. You know, I've never been somebody who said that camping's bad. Is it fun to watch? Not always. But when other teams are playing super passive against them and not coming down, what do you kind of really want them to do? Do you want them to ball up and push and risk a kill? No, they're going to do the smart thing, spread out and get vision. So it's kind of the double side thing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's still what Slav just said when Mecca said that OFP was literally 20 pixels away from the DS. Agreed. That's what I'm saying though. Like spreading out and getting vision is still camping, even though it's not egregious as ambushing a rock down 10 by your base. That's obviously a lot worse and more egregious, and I just use that word, but it's still camping. It just, you kind of have to do it. It's not the league anymore where everybody's moving at all times like it used to be. We need to understand that the new meta is all about vision. Somebody's got to get vision, so then when you get vision, you can push. And that's the difference between what Birds does and like what Pistol Squads have done in the past. Once Birds get visions, they shift and they push right or they push left. They take advantage of that vision in numbers. And historically, like Pistor or Apollo in the old days or Fausto sometimes, they'll get vision and then, you know what? We see them, we know the numbers, we don't want to push, we're just going to hold. So I think that's the difference, but I would still argue it's camping. It's just not as bad, I would say, in most people's eyes.
I do agree that if you don't get vision, it's absolutely egregious. Just egregious.
I only said 3 times.
Is anybody else any thoughts on that? That was pretty much a Mecca question, so I'm glad he handled it. Let's see here. Do we really believe this is Iso's last ride, or is he back in 2 seasons pretending he never said that? Speaking of which, what a last ride, huh? Dude thought he was going to take the Lambo out for a cruise, but Jordan couldn't convince Saab to join, so Jordan bailed on him, and now he's chugging along in a 1995 Toyota Sienna.
I won't necessarily call it a last ride. I think you do see his activity diminish with what's going to be taking place. But I think you still see him in Hydra Troll aliases from time to time.
Yeah, this is definitely a Kaga question because Kaga said he was going to quit like 10 times because he had a kid and his wife made him pay attention to the kid for once. And then you see Kaga show up every Sunday. So, you know, once the kid gets like a year, maybe he'll come back. But I do think he'll probably, you know, if he is having, I think it's not his first kid either. So I think you'll see his activity drop off a cliff. Maybe he's a Sunday only guy. Maybe he waits a season or 2 and shows up. You know, maybe he's a summer only guy. I don't think he'll be done forever, though. I hope not, at least.
Yeah,
this game has a way of sucking you in.
They pull me back in. Yeah, I will say that I thought that M4A1 was going to be around absolutely forever, and you know he hadn't been around in several seasons now, and I would hate it if that was the way that ISO went. I think he's a fixture of this game. He's a god amongst men. I've been watching him play as long as I've been around, and it's always comfortable when I come back and see ISO in the chat. You know, so I hope he does come back because he's a great player. But this is not the season I would like to see him go out in. I do like to see him as a top Marine in the league, and I think he's doing that when he's not leading a team. But we'll hope for another day when he comes back and fulfills that role. Anybody else with a comment for that one before I move on? Nope. Okay. Which current infantry player is most likely to be on the Epstein list, and why is it Oct?
What Epstein list? There is no list. What are you talking about?
What? Yeah, what list?
True. Moving on.
It's definitely Oct. I'll agree with that.
I told the person that sent that to me, I literally snort laughed when I read that for the first time.
I've been told Typhoon is on the Epstein list.
Oh, man. Oh, God. I'm so glad I pre-read that. I don't think I could have read that out loud. Okay, I got one final, if we don't have any thoughts on that one, I got one final. Eric, you're just passing that one up?
I mean, it's Oct. There's nobody else.
There's no competition for that.
Bax did have a proclivity for teenage girls, so you do have to consider him.
Yeah.
Well,
Let's move on.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So we had a question publicly posted. This is my last question here. at least for my mailbag. It is who wins in a fight against, in your opinion, G Unit versus LTDN? The question that's been on everybody's mind. The rosters that we have submitted by Fausto are for G Unit, we have Splitta, Chompy, SV, Pister, Ender, Tyrael, Manu, and Havoc versus LTDN. And LTDN is Fausto, Rio, Eric, Tactical, ESO, Champion, Slob, and Fairfax. Who wins?
It's not even close.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, I
not
was
even
gonna
a
say.
close one. You're playing the music all day long.
I have to give that. I had to recuse myself because Splitta put me on team 2, so I jumped out of G Unit. I think
Man,
Kaga did too.
Mandy says,
So-
"I ain't no split. I ain't no G Unit."
Damn, you're in G Unit reserves now. Damn.
Yeah, Kaga too. So we both recused ourselves from G Unit General. So I'm gonna have to give this to the Los Tigres.
All right. All right. Eric, you're
We should
Los
do this in off
Tigres.
season, by the way. I want to say
I will host
this
this
should
game.
be our all-star game.
I will
Rom and I
absolutely
will
host
announce
this
it.
game. You got to Mecca. You got to come up with music. We got to have all kinds of stuff for
Oh,
this
yeah.
intro.
We'll do it big.
Absolutely. I expect fireworks to go off in my ears. All right. Let's see here. That's all I have for mailbag questions. If you have them, we want them. Send your questions as private messages to me anytime you'd like on Discord. You can send them a week in advance if you want. I will keep all questions anonymous unless you request your name to be read as well. Any final comments about Week 5 games or anything coming up from the panel?
I got one more question that
Sure.
just came in.
Real quick.
So it's a three-parter. So should co-captains and spec be allowed to call camp timer and captain's chat when other members of their squad are unspec and can read it? Part 2 of that, if that occurs, does that contribute as spec info as defined in the rules? Part 3, if this fits the definition of spec info, should the punishments be laid out in the spec info segment of the rules by the USL administration team, or should they be allowed to interpret what the consequences of the action should be?
Okay, I've already weighed in on this in
So-
a private message. Let me just weigh in real quick. This is about X5, and X5 was not playing. He was in the captain's chat. He was a co-captain of the team. He should have been in the captain's chat. But the question is, if he's not in the game, can he comment on turtle timer and things like that, which he did in the captain's chat, which signaled that they were sitting still. And I have to say, the question is if it influences the game at all in terms of decision making. I think if we're being strict hardliners, I think it's spec info. I don't think it's intended to be spec info by X5, but I don't think he can say that. I absolutely don't think he can say that. I think he needs to be private messaging the referee if that's the case, if he wants to bring it to their attention, or he needs to put it in pub chat like the rest of us are. If it's a substitution, obviously he can weigh in on what the team wants him to do if that's what if that's his
Flag check
task.
too.
But or lag check for sure. But otherwise, I think if it's something like turtle timer, that's got to be a PM. You cannot put that in the captain's chat. Eric?
Yeah, this goes back to when SV on I think Suicide Squad kept spamming captain's chat for a response from the ref, in which the refs at the time were saying not camping, not camping, not camping. Only he was in game doing it, so that's one thing. But he was still fishing for info, right? I don't think that a co-captain that is in spec should be calling for a camp timer in the captain's chat. I agree it should be in the public spec chat or a PM to the ref, because like SV, anything that X5 is communicating in there can be looked at as possible info. It could be perceived as, okay, my guy's calling camp timer. I know they're sitting somewhere.
I kind of had a few different thoughts about this, but I think where I landed was I agree with Eric about the camp timer thing. Probably shouldn't be somebody in spec. I don't think it ever went into a rule, but I think it was kind of the understand. So I don't think X5 should be punished for this. I want to leave with that. Should he do it again? Also, no, he shouldn't do it again. Because I think what we decided a few seasons ago, and again, it might be an unwritten rule at this point. I didn't look through the rules for this, is that you can't fish for camp timers anymore it should be the onus on the referee to call the camp timer, and that's kind of where we landed. I just don't know if we ever wrote it down anymore, if it's in the rules. Correct me if I'm wrong if you want to check the rules.
Yeah, it's Rule 11. It's Rule 11.1.1. Spectator information includes the opposing team's location, heading, or any other sensitive details that would normally be unavailable to the teams participating in a match. And I think it falls under that third qualifier in 11.1.1. But that's what I would argue.
Yeah, but I think the spirit of that rule is if you do what Bax did and PM one of your guys and say, hey, they're, pushing out of the rocks. Hey, they're top right. I think that's more what that's talking about. I think this is a slightly different thing for a captain to call camp timer because it's like indirect spec info. Again, don't think you should do it, but I also don't think X5 should be banned. And I also think that there needs to be a clarification rule, 11.1.4 or whatever the fuck, saying that, hey, if you're a captain and you're in the captain chat and you're not in game, don't ask about camp timer. The ref should handle that. And again, just PM him if you feel like the ref's not noticing it.
I think it should
or you could just
understood.
edit that one.
Yeah.
Or you could just edit and say, whoever's in spec cannot request camp timer, right? Like, don't put a whole new portion. You could just add it on.
Yeah, something to that effect. I think it could be even more general than that. But yeah. I think we're all generally in agreement about what we want to do. Yosh, is that it? Anything else on that one, or are we good?
We're good, brother.
Okay. All right. Well, that'll do it for USL Live and the Season 53 Week 5 preview show. You can play Infantry for free. Download the game right now by you going to freeinfantry.com or checking Free Infantry in Steam. Just type in the search bar. If you're interested in league play, please visit uslzone.com. Sign up on site where you can view roster, schedules, or forums. Be sure to check out all our available videos on the Infantry Online YouTube page. Built and maintained by military police. Feel free to relive the nostalgia anytime you want by going back to watch play from past seasons. And please like and subscribe because it helps the algorithm. I'd like to thank my co-hosts for this show today. That'd be Mecca, Yosh, Herthbul, and Eric. Thank you to our executive producer, Military Police. This has been Romulocks, and you've been listening to USL Live.